expanding on Tobias Gray's legendary story and delving into the complex layers of humanity's struggle against the Zirath. The narrative reaches its full weight in the greater context of the war, the aftershocks of Tobias' pivotal actions, and the reverberations they send throughout human history. To capture the full essence of this monumental conflict, let's further explore the ramifications of Tobias's single-handed strike against the Zirath, the sacrifices made, and the untold stories of those involved. Every decision, every conflict, and every victory in this war reshapes the destiny of humankind. The Terran Coalition, though a fragile alliance formed from colonies scattered across the stars, had always been held together by one central truth: survival was the only option. Since the beginning of the Zirath's conquest, humanity had been a species on the defensive, scraping together the last vestiges of hope in the wake of the obliteration of Earth, the cradle of their civilization. The pain of that loss, the very planet from which humanity had sprung, was a wound that would never heal. As the Terran forces sought refuge on distant worlds, their fight against the Zirath never ceased, even as their numbers dwindled. For years, every victory felt hollow, every retreat deeper into the void of space a further concession to an alien species that viewed them as nothing more than a speed bump in their grand conquest of the galaxy. Admiral Samantha Rourke, a seasoned leader hardened by the relentless losses of the war, had long recognized that the Terran Coalition's chances of survival had diminished. Despite her brilliance in strategizing and directing what was left of humanity's fleet, she had known the truth deep in her heart: the Zirath were simply too powerful, their numbers and technological advancements too overwhelming for humanity to sustain a prolonged conflict. The possibility of a full-scale invasion had been enough to break the morale of even the most determined of soldiers. Desperation had set in as the war dragged on, with Earth's fall serving as a stark reminder that humanity could never be complacent. Yet, when Tobias Gray entered the fold of this near-lost cause, he brought with him an unexpected and, ultimately, world-changing discovery, one that had not only altered the course of the war, but had proven that humanity, when faced with the harshest of adversities, could summon a wellspring of ingenuity that no enemy could ever predict. Tobias was not a soldier. He was not even a strategist. He had been an engineer, a civilian whose greatest joy had been the quiet work of tinkering and fixing. And it was this mindset, this ability to see the overlooked details and exploit the smallest vulnerabilities, that had enabled him to uncover the Zirath's fatal flaw. As Tobias's discovery spread throughout the Coalition's command structure, it was met with disbelief, then shock, and eventually cautious optimism. To think that a single flaw in the Zirath's perfect communication network could bring about such monumental consequences, enough to level the playing field, even if only for a short time, seemed like a mere fantasy. But Tobias had proved it was real. The Zirath's communications, the very backbone of their empire, could be severed with a pulse of human ingenuity. The flaw was there for the taking, and Tobias's device, designed to exploit this vulnerability, would become humanity's greatest weapon against their seemingly invincible foe. Tobias, the reluctant hero, had become the focal point of humanity's last stand. Despite the staggering risks involved in the mission, despite the near impossible odds, there was no time left to hesitate. The Zirath capital, the very seat of their power, had become a fortress, their defenses so formidable that it was only by sheer audacity that Tobias was selected to carry out the mission. He would infiltrate their homeworld, using the Zirath's own technology to slip past their guards and plant a device that could unravel the core of their communications grid. It was a suicide mission, with no room for failure. From the moment he left the safety of the human fleet, the clock was ticking. Tobias, for all his brilliance in technology, had never been trained for war. He had no experience with combat, no battle-hardened instincts that could serve him in this new world. The terrain was alien, hostile. The Zirath were not just an enemy of military might, they were a species that thrived on complexity, whose intellect and capacity for manipulation made them a truly terrifying foe. Tobias wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting for the future of every human being left in the galaxy, for every colony that had been lost to the Zirath's merciless conquest. The capital city of the Zirath was a vast, sprawling metropolis, a testament to their power. The architecture was unlike anything Tobias had ever seen. A dark, alien world where towering spires pierced the sky and the air buzzed with the hum of machines far beyond humanity's understanding. The Zirath themselves were creatures of terrifying intelligence, their bodies adapted to their environment, with long, segmented limbs and eyes that gleamed with an otherworldly intelligence. Every step Tobias took was fraught with danger, every shadow hiding the potential of discovery and capture. The Zirath had anticipated that the Terran forces might attempt a desperate strike at the heart of their empire. Every corner of the city was heavily monitored, every entrance guarded. Tobias had to be cunning, using every skill he possessed: knowledge of technology, human adaptability, and sheer luck to move through this alien world undetected. His journey through the city was a harrowing one, as he dodged patrols, evaded detection, and relied on his technical expertise to sabotage the alien security systems. Each time he thought he was in the clear, the Zirath adapted, tightening their noose around him. Yet, Tobias persisted. His determination never wavered. He knew that he was not just a man on a mission. He was the last hope for humanity. Failure was not an option. The communications hub, when Tobias finally reached it, was a massive complex buried deep within the heart of the city. The building's architecture was alien in every sense, interwoven with strange, pulsating materials that seemed to hum with an energy of their own. The Zirath had designed the hub as an impenetrable fortress, and to any other being, it might have seemed insurmountable. But Tobias, with his intimate understanding of technology, was able to bypass the security systems, exploiting the very weaknesses he had uncovered in the enemy's systems. Once inside, he planted the device, his pulse disruptor, a small but powerful creation designed to send waves of interference through the quantum encryption of the Zirath network. The moment the device was activated, the entire Zirath communications grid would fracture, cutting off their ability to coordinate with their fleet and military forces. It was the perfect strike, a move so subtle, so precise, that it would cause chaos on an unimaginable scale. Tobias was fully aware that, in triggering the device, he would seal his own fate. There would be no escape. The Zirath would hunt him down before he could make it to safety. But the mission had to be completed. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. As the device began its countdown, Tobias made his final desperate dash to the extraction point. The Zirath, however, were closing in fast. They had discovered his presence, and their pursuit was relentless. Tobias fought with everything he had, using his knowledge of the city's layout and the technology at his disposal to hold them off. Each step he took seemed like it might be his last. But as he triggered the device, a wave of disruption rippled through the city, and everything changed. The Zirath's once unified communications network collapsed into disarray. Their fleets, scattered and isolated, were no longer able to coordinate. The Terran fleet, having prepared for this moment, launched a decisive counterattack, seizing the opportunity to strike at the heart of the Zirath's disorganized forces. But Tobias, despite his heroic actions, was left behind. He was captured, cornered by the Zirath as they swarmed the area. It was a tragic end for a man who had given everything. Yet, even in his final moments, Tobias's legacy was cemented. The Terran fleet, spurred on by the chaos Tobias had unleashed, fought with renewed vigor. The Zirath, for the first time, found themselves vulnerable. Their empire, seemingly impervious to defeat, was unraveling, and the tides of war had shifted in favor of humanity. In the aftermath of the battle, as the dust settled and the remnants of the Zirath fleet retreated, Tobias Gray was hailed as a hero. His name became synonymous with sacrifice, intelligence, and courage. The Terran coalition, emboldened by their victory, began to rebuild. The war was far from over, but humanity now had a fighting chance. The victory that followed Tobias's heroic actions would become the turning point in the war, and while the cost had been high, humanity had won the chance to survive. The legend of Tobias Gray became a symbol of what it meant to be human, to fight against insurmountable odds, to rise from the ashes, and to give everything for the future of the species. In the years that followed, his story would inspire generations to come. His final act of heroism, one man against an empire, would be forever etched in the memory of the galaxy. And humanity, now united, would move forward, determined to ensure that Tobias Gray's sacrifice would not be in vain. Through his bravery, humanity learned a critical lesson: that the strength of the human spirit, the resilience to fight against all odds, could not be measured by the size of an army or the firepower of a fleet, but by the unwavering will to survive. Tobias had shown them that even when all seemed lost, even when the universe seemed to conspire against them, humanity could always find a way to rise. And that, in the end, was enough to win the war.